You don't feel like working out. It doesn't matter. It's not part of the calculation.
It's up to you to get yourself up, get some training in, maintain your level of fitness.
People get defeated by their alarm clock. People's motivation gets defeated by their pillow. People's motivation gets defeated by a donut. That's what happens. There are things that you learn in basic SEAL training that stick with you.
When it's cold, when it's miserable, when you don't want to be there.
There is something else that you can tap into that is much more powerful than your feelings, than your motivation. And if you do that, you're going to end up with freedom.
Jocko, how do I get more motivated? Obviously, we get this question all the time for people that want to improve their motivation.
Mm-hmm. Well, the fact of the matter is motivation doesn't matter, doesn't weigh in, carries no weight. It's not part of the program. It really isn't. It's just not part of the program. Being motivated is not part of the program. And look, going through SEAL training, I have often said you don't learn anything going through SEAL training. You don't learn anything. It's just, you're just gonna be wet, cold, and miserable. But we talked about this on a recent podcast. There are things that you learn in basic SEAL training that stick with you. One of them is that motivation is worthless. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Because what's going to happen going through SEAL training is you are going to do things that you 100% do not want to do at that moment. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. You've been wet, cold, and miserable. You get dragged up onto the beach. You climb up onto the beach. You get underneath your boat for 7 minutes. You're huddled up with your guys. You're trying to create body heat to get a little bit of warmth. And you start feeling a little bit of warmth. And then the instructor's like, get back in the water. No one in that class wants to get back in the water. 0 people. 0 people want to get back in the water. The motivation level to get back in the water is 0. It might even be -9, right? It is low. And guess what you're going to do? Get out from under the boat. You're going to get back in the water. So what you realize is that motivation doesn't matter at all. What matters is the discipline that you're going to execute what you're being told at that time to execute. Now, the other thing that's happening in SEAL training is, believe it or not, you have a lot of freedom. You have a lot of freedom in SEAL training. You get weekends off. You get a lot of weekends off. Sometimes you get nights off. You have time. You can go right. You're in one of the most beautiful places in the world, Coronado, California. There's stores out there. There's little bars guys can go to. Then you go from Coronado, you can get a cab. Back in the day, you can get a cab. Now you can get an Uber or a Lyft or whatever. You can go right over into downtown San Diego. Now you got clubs, you got bars, you got things going on. You got women you can chase around. You can go all the way up to Pacific Beach. There's colleges that pour into Pacific Beach, and there's all that mayhem to get into. And guess what? If you want to go out and get into that mayhem, you can. But that costs some people. Some guys going through that training, that costs them the ability to make it through training. They either get in trouble or they're not ready for that 4-mile timed run on Monday morning. But those temptations are there. And what protects you from those temptations is discipline. That's what it is. So motivation isn't what we are relying on. And we can't rely on motivation because, like I said, if you and I got to get in the water to go conduct an operation, the motivation to do that will be 0, might even be -9, might be -12, might be -1,000. And you know what? Doesn't matter. You and I are going to go do what we have to do. But going through SEAL training, you're having stuff imposed upon you. This is what you will do now. In a lot of ways, that's easier, right? It's easier to do that. It's easier to get put in the water because you're being told to get put in the water. But what they do is you have those weekends off. You have those times you can get in trouble. You have a 4-mile timed run. There's no pace setting. As a matter of fact, this is a reason they do this. You don't have a watch on. They don't let you have a watch in SEAL training. So you do a 4-mile timed run. You have to mate a certain time. You have to make a certain time. You don't know what the time is because you don't know what time it is because you don't have a watch. So you know what you have to do? Run as hard as you can. Same thing with a swim. What do? Swim as hard as you can. Same thing with the obstacle course. The motivation won't be there. 3.5 miles into a 4-mile time run, you're dying. You feel like you're going to die. What do you got to do? You got to have the discipline to keep pushing. Otherwise, you're not going to make the time. So they develop this intrinsic discipline you should carry into the teams so that you continue to stay on the path and it doesn't take a person telling you that you need to do something. You do it anyways. You don't do it because you're motivated. You do it because you're disciplined. And that's what we have in our minds. What's interesting is In our minds, we are the general. The general on the battlefield. In our minds, we are the general. We are also the soldier that has to execute. That's what we have in our brains. You come up with a plan. I'm going to work out today. That's the general telling you to work out. The soldier, that's you also, has to go and then execute on that. That's the discipline. And listen, in a normal, real military organization, the leaders put out the word to the soldiers have to execute. Otherwise, everything falls apart. It's the same thing in your mind. The leader in your mind, the general, puts out the word on what needs to be executed. It's you, the soldier, that has to go make that happen. So you get trained, just like you get trained in Marine Corps boot camp or Army boot camp or Navy boot camp, that you're going to respond to those direct orders when they come. You have to train yourself. You have to train the soldier in your mind to obey those direct orders when they come. And that is the foundation of discipline.
When you graduate from BUD/S, after you go into that training and you have to use discipline to go out there when you're not motivated, well, then it's on you to maintain a high level of physical training. And that was a tough transition for me. I know it was for a lot of people, because now you don't have an instructor in a blue shirt yelling at you or telling you to show up at this time to go through a training evolution. You have to do it on your own. And it's up to you to maintain a super high level of physical fitness. And that's a big transition, because now all of a sudden it takes that self discipline to get yourself up, get some training in, go out and maintain your level of fitness on your own. And that's something that the motivation is often not there, because particularly when you're training and there's things that are happening, you're traveling, and it's harder if you don't have access to your regular gym, or it's not super convenient if you're out on the road. You got to wake up early. If you got early training evolution, you got to wake up even earlier to get up and get your workouts in. But that's something you have to do, and it takes tremendous self-discipline to do that. In the SEAL teams, I remember often when we're out shooting, or we're at a demolition range and we're blowing things up, or we're jumping, and it's easy to look at yourself and think, I can't believe I get paid to do this. This is such a fun job. And it was the best job in the world. But we used to joke about the fact that we had kind of what we called the 20-minute rule of, like, when you're on a boat, in high seas, in cold water, or you're riding in a helicopter, it's really cool for 20 minutes. If you're diving at nighttime under the ocean and it's pitch black and there's ships going over the top of you, it's really cool for 20 minutes. And then 2.5 hours later, you're still doing it. And so it is, you might be motivated in the first 20 minutes to like, oh, this is really cool. This is really neat. This is fun. This is something that I kind of dreamed of doing, or something that I maybe saw in the movies or on TV shows. But that motivation is immediately waning. And so you got to do that for hours and hours, when it's cold, when it's miserable, when you don't want to be there. And it requires discipline to push through. And that's what makes all the difference in the performance, for your own individual performance and the performance of your team.
Yeah, and that's why that training is so hard. They will 100% get through whatever level of motivation a human being has. They will burn through that and get to where there's only thing that's left is discipline. The only thing that's left. There's nobody at day 4 of Hell Week that is, like I said, sitting underneath a boat. They get told to get back in the water. Not one of those people want to get back in the water. And do they stand up and say "hoo-yah" and run back in there and act like they are? Yep, 100%, or not 100%, but some guys, false motivation. I was all about that false motivation. They're telling me to do something that's going to suck. I'm going to act like I want to do it. Let's go. But they burn through that motivation of everybody in that class. That's why so many people quit. And because you think about it, 20 minutes, it's gone, right? That's your assessment. Even if it's something that you love doing, you love whatever, you love going on an op and going on patrol. You love doing that. Cool. Maybe you're a person that it's fun for an hour, 3 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours, 12 hours, 1 day. So they're going to keep doing that to you until you get to 5.5 days of things that suck. And they burn through the class motivation collectively is 0 at the end. What you end up with is people that are going to do what they are told to do because they are disciplined. That's what you end up with. And that's what you need. That's the way, you can't negotiate. You don't negotiate with an instructor and say, hey, maybe can we go in a little while? I'm kind of warm right now. You don't get to do that. And clearly, you don't get to negotiate in combat. And that's what it boils down to. There is going to be times in combat situations, when there's gunfire in the street and someone's got to go out and lay down cover fire. There's going to be times where people say, oh, I can die when I step out of this alleyway. I don't want to do this right now. And he's got 15, 20 other people relying on him putting down that cover fire. You can't have someone that says, I'm not sure if I'm motivated to do this right now. What you need is someone that is going to execute what they need to execute through pure discipline. Fear is overcome. Hesitation is overcome. It's not overcome by motivation. It's overcome by discipline. That's why it trumps all these bullshit emotions that are floating around in people's head. I'm scared. I'm afraid. I'm nervous. I'm hesitant. I'm not sure if I want to do this. I'm second guessing. All those little things. They're just overridden by one thing and one thing only, discipline. And that's what it's going to take. So that's why that training is hard. And that's why the result is guys that can go out on the battlefield and they are going to deliver. They are going to execute no matter what they come up against. That is the discipline. So what does that mean to a normal person that doesn't need to go into extreme cold conditions or doesn't need to go into combat situations? Well, guess what? What's strange is people get defeated on a daily basis by things that are much less significant. I mean, infinitely less significant. People get defeated by their alarm clock. People's motivation gets defeated by their pillow. People's motivation gets defeated by a donut. That's what happens. That's the reality of the situation is the will that people have gets defeated by a donut. That's what happens. And they end up in terrible situations. They end up not healthy. They end up having problems. They're not physically capable. All that starts with their will and their motivation being overcome by a donut. So what you have to do is you have to start to recognize that there is something else that you can tap into that is much more powerful than your feelings, than your motivation, and that is discipline. You can apply this discipline. Look, you have a project that's due at work that you don't feel like working on right now. Doesn't matter that you don't feel like working on it right now. You impose discipline on the situation and you do what you're supposed to do. You have a exercise. You need to work out this morning. You haven't worked out yet. You wake up in the morning. You need to go work out. You don't feel like working out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you don't feel like working out. It doesn't matter. It's not part of the calculation. Discipline overrides that. Discipline trumps your feelings. And that is what you need to apply as a person, as a normal human being, no matter what you're doing in your life. You need to let discipline be your guide, not how you feel. That's what we need to do. And if you do that, you're going to end up with freedom. You're going to end up with freedom across the board. Discipline equals freedom. That's what I have been saying for a long time. It is 100% factually true. If you allow your feelings to dictate what you do, you will end up being a slave to your feelings at a minimum. But if you utilize discipline in your life, you will end up with the ultimate freedom in everything that you do. So that is why you, as a person out there doing your job, whatever that job may be, impose discipline in your life. It will set you free.